Hey everybody, DGooden24 here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about NASCAR games, but not the iRacing NASCAR game. That's in a whole nother category. This is something a little different. I think NASCAR needs to kind of figure out what they want to do with their games that are not their simulation iRacing game. Like iRacing and the game they're making, push it to the side. That's something completely different. I want to talk about the other side, their arcade game and simulate like team simulation management game. I think there is a world of potential there for them, and they are not taking a hold of it. And it's something that I've been kind of thinking about, and I thought, hey, let's talk about it to my viewer base. So let's go ahead and start off first. I think NASCAR needs good games, and that's so basic of me to say, but I mean, like, they need a good arcade game and they need a good management type game to go along with the simulation or simcade type game like iRacing is making. That is perfect to have. And I know NASCAR is not the biggest sport in the world now, and it may be hard for those games to compete, but I think if you get a good game, whether that be arcade or simulation game, you're going to get people that may not want to play just a basic NASCAR game interested. Casual fans and kids for the arcade game, and simulation diehards for your management game. I think it's possible, and I think that there's things that they can do to fill that void, but they're just not doing them and not doing them correctly. So let's start off arcade. I'm the type of guy that loves NASCAR Rumble, I love NASCAR kart racing, and I love NASCAR Unleashed. I am a big fan, and those are really the big three. I'm sure I'm forgetting one off the top of my head, but I love those games. And the fact that we haven't had anything really like them in a long time is sad. NASCAR Rumble, obviously, it was kind of a base arcade racing game with NASCAR skins, and let's be real about that. There was really not even any NASCAR-esque tracks. Like, it was just basic tracks. But the NASCAR skin on the cars is what made it fun and great for the NASCAR fan. A lot of people talk about that game still, me included, and a lot of people I see love that game. It's their favorite, one of their favorite arcade racing games ever. And that's fair and completely valid. It's a great game. The fact we haven't had anything like that recently is interesting to me. They had a sequel, the next console, called Rumble Racing, essentially the same game but with no NASCAR skin, and that didn't perform as well as NASCAR Rumble. I barely hear anybody talk about that game. If that had the NASCAR skin, I'm sure it would have been probably loved in the NASCAR community. And then they had NASCAR Unleashed, which tried to copy that, but it didn't, not as well. It's still fun. I enjoy that game a lot. It kind of tried to be NASCAR Rumble, but it really wasn't as tight, I thought. And it kind of missed the edge that I thought NASCAR Rumble had. For me, NASCAR Rumble, when I played it when I was younger, was like this super cool, sleek game. Even the credits where it had like the instrumental music playing over all the souped up cars. Oh, that was so badass. For me as a kid, that got me hyped. I would sometimes just go and watch it and just be like, whoa, this is NASCAR. I love it. It made them seem like gladiators. It's awesome. NASCAR Unleashed didn't have that. It was more of your kiddie type NASCAR Rumble. But still, it was fun. I loved that game. I played the hell out of it. I was excited for it when it came out. I remember I bought it on release day. It was a good time, and I think they need something like that. And in between there, I know I just did a video on it, is NASCAR kart racing. A very serviceable Mario Kart clone made by EA. It's a fun time, and I'm sure that game didn't cater to many people aside from NASCAR fans, but I'm fairly certain somebody that wasn't a big NASCAR fan got it and probably enjoyed it. NASCAR needs a kids game, and it doesn't have to be a kids game, a game catered for the casual fans that is not NASCAR Arcade Rush. Let's talk the difference between NASCAR Arcade Rush and all these other three games I listed are huge. The big reason, there are no real drivers. It's just the NASCAR branding. And I've obviously talked about this. Nobody wants to buy a NASCAR game with no real world drivers in it. What's the point? The NASCAR branding, I love NASCAR. But the reason I love NASCAR is the drivers and the personalities. Now, a lot of these games only had a finite number of drivers. NASCAR Rumble, I think, had the most. They tried to include everybody from like NASCAR 2000. NASCAR Kart Racing only had 12, and Unleashed, I don't quite remember, but it wasn't a lot. I think if you even if it was just a finite number, I think you should include all of the chartered teams. I think that would kind of be brokered in if that were to happen. But the drivers are what makes these games important. That's how people like me pick drivers. I would always go through and just race these different paint schemes I thought were fun when I was a kid and I thought looked cool. Even when I didn't pick Jeff Gordon, my favorite driver, or Jerry Nadeau, I would pick schemes that look cool and just race and just have fun. The drivers are important. You can't just have a NASCAR arcade game and not put any drivers in it. Sure, you had the tracks that looked fine, like Daytona and Martinsville. Like they made tracks based off of real world places, which is what kart racing and Unleashed did, which is awesome. Do that. Do more of that. That's awesome. But it's got to have real drivers in it. And apart from the lack of drivers and it just being a NASCAR game, it wasn't fun. And I'm sorry to say, it had potential. There was no damage. There was no like wrecking. It was just the tracks were too big. It was just not interesting. It was not an interesting game. It was very bland and basic, and it just wasn't fun. It's not a type of game that's going to get a kid interested in NASCAR. And I think they're really, really missing out. They need to find someone, and I'm not saying Monster Games, even though Monster Games has worked on Nintendo titles, even if they were just ports. Find someone that'd be willing to make a good NASCAR arcade game, not Game Mill Studios. I like their NHRA game, but let's find another indie or smaller studio to make this and put some heart and effort into it and make it what we want, whether it be NASCAR Rumble 2, if that's even possible, or NASCAR Unleashed 2. I'm not even opposed to another NASCAR car racing game, if we're being honest, as long as it's done well. I think there is room on the market for an arcade NASCAR game. I really, really do. It's something that the sport is lacking. I've already seen NASCAR Arcade Rush on sale for $20. And I know you guys are saying they already had one. I promise you, NASCAR Arcade Rush is not even on the same level as any of those other three games I listed. When they're done well, they are done good. People will play them and like them. And that's just how it is. NASCAR Arcade Rush, I've seen not a single person talk about that since it came out. It's sad. So that's on the arcade side. I think just do something like what we've already had. I think if there is effort and heart put into it, I think people will eat it up, myself included. And then on the other side, we have the simulation aspect, like the management type game. Let's be frank. NASCAR, some of you like NASCAR Manager. I couldn't believe it. I literally could not believe it. But if you do, that's good on you. It's not for me. It's absolutely not for me. Even if the real world drivers and teams are coming, that game is still going to be a shell of a management game. F1 Manager, racing, or I can't even think of it. The racing manager game, Motorsport Manager, whatever. I can't. Those are on a completely different level. That is what NASCAR needs. They need it with teams. NASCAR 06 and 07 were so darn close. When you could go and buy real teams and add another car and fluctuate the ability of each car by purchasing upgrades, that is as close as we've gotten to something like that, aside from mods on Motorsport Manager. That's something that would be awesome. I understand it might be a little tough to make teams purchasable with the charter system. It's the same reason why some sponsors and stuff you can't use in some of these games. The details, I understand, is probably hard. There's some legalities to it. But even if that's not in the game, there is a darn big lane for NASCAR to have a management type game. That's good. I'm not saying you have to get the people that made F1 Manager to make a NASCAR Manager style game. I think it could be done with less than that. Let's look at NASCAR Redline or NASCAR Manager 15. That was a NASCAR management style game where you managed races even with little mini games in it. That was fun. A lot of people liked that game, myself included. I really think that there's a lane for that. Whether you include the little mini games or not, or if you make it just completely simulation, people will buy it as long as it's done right. A mobile game with microtransactions and 2 forms of currency is not it. Now, if you want to make some money, that's fine. I'm sure NASCAR managers are making all sorts of money from microtransactions. But if you're looking to get people interested, I think that's the type of game you need. If it's a good management game, simulation game, people will play it. People love that shit. They eat it up. I know F1 Manager has not been all that it has been since it first came out. I know last year's release was pretty meh. I don't even think it needs to be a yearly release. You could just make one game, set it at a price, and then have DLC every year. Charge people $20 for updated schemes. If you do get it right, you don't have to put out a game every year. You could just make DLC or open it up to modding. There's loads of opportunity. These games are fun. I have played Motorsport Manager with NASCAR DLC. It's fun if it's done right. I'm not saying put in weather, or anything like that. There doesn't need to be that. But if you do it right, make a good team management game where you're hiring and firing people, hiring and firing drivers, get real drivers on the free agent list, and make it fun and interesting to play, it'll be good. People will eat it up. And I think that's something that this sport has always lacked, is a good management game. Like I said, 06 and 07 were so close, but you had to do the racing yourself. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. I could buy another team in NASCAR, and the numbers to buy it were so high that it felt like it was something I had to work really, really hard to get to. And it's stuff like that. It's just so close. Same with the other games like NASCAR 2005, 06 and 07, and then the Heat games, owning your own team. It's cool, but we're not to the point yet of it being exactly what I was looking for. Yes, the managing of merchandise is really cool. You could take that to a whole nother level. Maybe managing like driver appearances and schedules. There's loads of stuff you could do that they haven't done, even in the F1 games. I think there is a lot here. Managing sponsorships, I like actually managing them, not just this is what we're looking for. Just click the button. These are your options. I think there's room to negotiate with sponsors, trying to win sponsors over. They don't have to be real. I understand that would be difficult, but I'm just saying some sort of little management game to where you actually have to work to get sponsors, just like real life. And if you start at the bottom, you don't have enough tires to purchase for the weekend. Stuff like that. There's potential. There's so much potential. I just wish someone would take advantage of it. NASCAR video games right now are very, very lacking, and I know that will change come next year with iRacing's game. I'm excited for it. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to include simulation management aspects. That would be super awesome if they did, like an owner mode, but if they don't, I think there's still plenty of room for a management style game. And I think if NASCAR did either one of these types of games, let alone both, I think there's all the room in the world for growth, and people will eat it up if it's good. That's what's important. It has to be good. So there's me ranting for 14 minutes about things I've probably already ranted about. It was just something that was on my mind. And I'm like, oh, I kind of already talked about each of these things, but I think putting them together, I think would be good. NASCAR needs a good video game. It's very important. iRacing is leading that charge right now, but it's expensive. And if you're a 10-year-old boy or girl, it's not feasible. It's just not. So they need a good game to play, whether it's an arcade game, a simulation game, or a management game. Let's just get the ball rolling. And I know they are with iRacing, but I think there's room for more. So guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.